Welcome to SATV News. This is Kazi Farhana with your headlines. Khaleda safeguarded Bangladesh sovereignty, says Ruhul Kabir Rizvi. Conspiracy underway to seize country's coal and gas. Government advocating yes vote in favor of reform, says Press Secretary. Critics of referendum have limited understanding. At least 6 killed in Uttara residential building fire. Fire originated from kitchen, says police. Now in details. BNP Senior Joint Secretary General Ruhul Kabir Rizvi Ahmed has said that Bangladesh's independence and sovereignty remained protected because of the leadership of Khaleda Zia. He made the remark today while inaugurating a photographic exhibition on the late BNP chairperson Khaleda Zia at Justice Shahabuddin Park in the capital's Gulshan area. He also alleged that regional and global powers are carrying out a planned conspiracy to seize Bangladesh's remaining coal and gas resources. At the same time, Mr. Rizvi said the power plant project in Jharkhand, India had once been cancelled by India's planning ministry. However, during the fascist regime, the same project was implemented in Rampal, Bangladesh, added the BNP leader. Besides, he said that it was never possible to implement such anti-national projects under Begum Khaleda Zia, which is why she was politically suppressed and imprisoned. He further asserted that there had been a plan to push the late BNP chairperson towards death by denying her proper medical treatment in prison. Meanwhile, BNP Standing Committee member Amir Khosrow Mahmood Chaudhary said that the government should not tell people to cast any special votes. She made this comment in response to questions from journalists after a children's and teenagers rally organized by Mazhabahari Academy in the Nasirabad Government Boys High School grounds in Chattogram. Later in the day, he also said that power of people should be increased through reducing the power of the state, as more power in state ultimately help emerge fascism and create a worrisome situation for the countrymen. Chief Advisor Press Secretary MD Shafiqul Alam today said the government is openly advocating a yes vote in favor of reforms, stressing that such a stance is standard practice in referendum worldwide. Speaking to journalists in Brahmanbaria Sakhara Upazila, Mr. Shafiqul also said there is no fear or uncertainty surrounding the upcoming national parliamentary election and referendum scheduled for February 12. Besides, he said all preparations had been completed to ensure a free, fair and festive election, including reviews by returning officers, police security forces and postal ballots agreements. Addressing criticism of the referendum, Shafiqul said those questioning the government's position lacked proper understanding. In every country where referendums are held, governments take a position either for yes or no. Since this government supports reforms, it is naturally speaking in favor of a yes vote, he said. Mr. Shafiqul described the referendum as a collective package of reforms, adding that a yes vote was essential to prevent the return of misrule or authoritarianism. He further said that unlike the past, when voting was allegedly manipulated, citizens should be able to vote freely this time. The government will prove through its actions that it has no bias, he added. The death toll from a fire that broke out a 7-story residential building in capital Uttara has risen to 6. Among the deceased are 3 members of the same family, including a husband, wife and their child, said police. The incident occurred at a building located on Road Nong 18 in Sector 11 of Uttara. The incident occurred at around 7:50 a.m.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য
2 people were shot dead and at least 16 others injured in a violent clash over stabilizing dominance in Kumilla's Nangolkot Upazila today. The incident took place around noon at Aliara village under Bokshagan Chumi Union in Upazila. The deceased were identified as Dilar Hussain, a migrant worker who returned home from abroad a month ago, and Saleh Ahmed, a former member of Bokshagan Union Parishad. According to eyewitnesses, the two were shot during the clash between rival groups, leading to their deaths on the spot. Others sustained injuries during the confrontation. The injured were admitted to different hospitals in Kumilla and Feni, with the condition of several reported to be critical. Locals said tensions between the Abul Khair group and the Sheikh Farid group had been simmering since June the last year, following the disputes over the cattle grazing, which had earlier left 2 women injured in shootings. A case was filed at Nangolkot police station in connection with those incidents, and several accused were arrested and sent to jail. Prices of vegetables and chicken have risen sharply across markets in the capital over the past week, while consumers have seen some relief from lower prices of onions and eggs. A visit to several retail and wholesale markets in Dhaka today found that the ample supply of early winter vegetables, which had kept prices stable earlier in the season, has declined. As a result, prices of most vegetables have increased, with chicken also selling at higher rates. Newly harvested potatoes are now selling at Taka 30 to 35 per kilogram, up from Taka 20 to 25 2 weeks ago. Prices of cauliflower have also increased, with small size cauliflower selling at Taka 40 to 50 each, compared to with Taka 25 to 30 Taka earlier. Bottle gourds have risen by about Taka 20 to are selling at 70 to 80 Taka per piece. Eggplant prices range from Taka 60 to 70 Taka per kilogram, while higher quality varieties are selling for Taka 80 to 100 Taka. Green beans are selling at 45 to 50 Taka per kilogram for average quality and 70 to 80 Taka for better quality, are from the Taka 30 to 35 and Taka 50 to 70 respectively in recent days. Viewers, we're taking a short break. Stay with us.
In Bangladesh, Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone. World-class gym facility with exclusive equipment for man and woman. A restaurant of delicious local and international cuisine. Fully air-conditioned building with spacious banquet, car lift, sky view rooftop restaurant, all in one. Grand Club Limited, Mirpur 10, Dhaka.
কি এমন জিনিস যেটা সব লোকে খায়? ছোটরা খেলে পরে কেঁদে মায়ের কাছে যায়, বৃদ্ধ লোক খেলে পরে মাথায় দেয় হাত, যুবক যুবতীরা খেলে পরে এদিক ওদিক তাকায়।
ছেড়ে দে শয়তান, ছেড়ে দে, দেহ পেলে আমার মন পাবি না, ছেড়ে দে।
কোন ফলের বীজ নেই বলো দেখি দাদা, বলতে না পারলে হবে তুমি গাধা।
মন্দিরা চক্রবর্তী কার সাথে প্রেম করছে?
আমি এখন মা হতে চলেছে।
চিনেছি তোমারে আকারে প্রকারে, দিনের আলো রাতের আধারে।
কোন বাসায় শুধু দুজন থাকে, দরজা জানালা ছাদ কিছুই থাকে না?
পা, পায়ের নুপুর।
Welcome back to watching SATV News. News from abroad. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado gave her Nobel Peace Prize medal to U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday during a White House meeting in a bid to influence his efforts to shape her country's political future. A White House official confirmed that Trump intends to keep the medal. In a social media post on Thursday evening, Trump wrote, "Maria presented me with her Nobel Peace Prize for the work I have done. Such a wonderful gesture of mutual respect. Thank you, Maria." Machado, who described the meeting as excellent, said the gift was in recognition of what she called his commitment to the freedom of the Venezuelan people. Following their first in-person meeting at the White House, Machado said that she was impressed by President Donald Trump's understanding of Venezuela's crisis and his concerns for the suffering of its people. Machado added that she and Trump discussed the expectations and dreams of Venezuelans, the country's current hardship, and hopes for change. Trump openly campaigned for the prize before Machado was awarded it last month and complained bitterly when he was snubbed. Though Machado gave Trump the gold medal that honors receive with the prize, the honor remains hers. The Norwegian Nobel Institute has said the prize cannot be transferred, shared, or revoked. The United States stands by the brave people of Iran, and President Donald Trump has made it clear all options are on the table to stop the slaughter. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz told the UN Security Council on Thursday. President Trump is a man of action, not endless talk like we see at the United Nations. He has made it clear all options are on the table to stop the slaughter, Waltz told the Security Council meeting, which Washington had requested. Waltz dismissed allegations by Iran that the protests are a foreign plot to give a prosecutor to military action. Iran's Deputy UN Ambassador Ghulam Hossein Darazi said Iran does not seek escalation or confrontation and accused Waltz of resorting to lies, distortion of facts, and a deliberate misinformation campaign to conceal his country's direct involvement in steering unrest in Iran to violence. However, any act of aggression, direct or indirect, will be met with a decisive, proportionate, and lawful response, he told the Security Council. This is not a threat, it is a statement of legal reality.
In accordance with undeniable evidence. It is deeply regrettable that the representative of the United States regime
European countries sent small numbers of military personnel to Greenland on Thursday as Denmark said it has pressing on with the plans for a larger and more permanent NATO presence and secure the island coveted by U.S. President Donald Trump. Denmark's Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen told journalists in Copenhagen on Thursday he did not have a final figure for the envisaged expanded NATO presence in Greenland. Danish Environment Minister Magnus Heunicke said a record number of diplomats had come to Copenhagen to show support for Greenland and reiterated comments by the Arctic Islands Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen about Greenland choosing Denmark over the United States. Greenlandic members of Danish Parliament Asa Chemnitz said many allies were supporting them, including France and Germany. A meeting of officials from the U.S., Denmark, and Greenland on Wednesday failed to reach any breakthrough in the impasse. The French minister said on Thursday NATO allies are completely capable of defending their territory against any threat as France deployed small numbers of military personnel to Greenland to prepare military exercise. Speaking during a press conference in Riga alongside Latvia's Foreign Minister Baiba Brace, Jean-Noël Barrot said more forces would follow in the coming days across land, air and sea dimensions. French President Emmanuel Macron had earlier said that the first team of French soldiers was already in place in Greenland. Prominent EU countries have backed Denmark, warning a U.S. military seizure of Greenland could in effect spell the end of NATO.
Et il est important qu'entre alliés, un dialogue puisse s'engager.
U.S. security forces fired tear gas at protesters who gathered near the Whipple Federal Building over a surge in immigration agents on the streets of Minneapolis on Thursday evening. U.S. President Donald Trump threatened on Thursday to invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy military forces in Minnesota after days of angry protest over a surge in immigration agents on the streets of Minneapolis. Confrontations between residents and federal officers have become increasingly tense after an immigration and customs enforcement agent fatally shot a U.S. citizen, renegade, in a car 8 days ago in Minneapolis, and the protests have spread.
Grand Palace, 5-star chain hotel, Zinda Bazar, Sylhet. Local and international cuisines. Exclusive banquet hall for all events. 5-star luxurious rooms and suites with bulletproof glass. Fiberglass swimming pool.
Israeli occupation forces killed a Palestinian woman and wounded several others early Friday in the southern Gaza Strip as airstrikes, demolitions, and gunfire continued across multiple acres despite the ceasefire agreement. Medical sources say the 62-year-old was shot dead by Israeli gunfire west of Khan Yunis. Several others were injured when Israeli troops opened heavy fire to a tent sheltering displaced Palestinians in central Khan Yunis and the Al-Mawasi coastal area, where thousands have sought refuge. At the same time, Israeli forces carried out airstrikes and targeted demolitions east of Gaza City in the northern Gaza Strip, according to witnesses and medical officials. Israeli troops continue to maintain control over large parts of northern Gaza, as well as southern and eastern buffer zones, amounting to nearly half of the enclave. The killing comes amid a broader escalation of Israeli attacks as a ceasefire entered its second phase. According to Palestinian reports, Israeli strikes and assassinations over the past 24 hours have killed at least 16 Palestinians and wounded dozens more across the Strip. Former Cuban President Raul Castro and Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel on Thursday presided a large guard of honor in Havana, honoring 32 Cuban soldiers killed during a U.S. military operation targeting Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in early January. Senior officials, including Interior Minister Lazaro Alvarez Casas and Armed Forces Minister Alvaro Lopez Miera at the Ministry of the Revolutionary Armed Forces, also participated in the tribute to the fallen soldiers. The soldiers were killed in combat during the U.S. attack on Venezuela, which led to the stunning capture of its president, Nicolas Maduro. The remains of the soldiers, members of the Cuba's armed forces and intelligence agencies, arrived early on Thursday at Havana's International Airport in cascades draped in the Cuban flag. A motorcade later transferred the bodies to the Armed Forces Ministry along one of the capital's main boulevards, lined by thousands paying their respects, waving flags and saluting.
A los 32 combatientes cubanos caídos en el cumplimiento del deber en la República Bolivariana de Venezuela.
Interim President Delcy Rodriguez said on Thursday she was submitting a proposal to reform the country's hydrocarbon law as investors in the U.S. push for the easier access to the South American country's oil industry. Rodriguez, who was sworn in on January 5 after the U.S. ouster of her predecessor, spoke in an annual presidential address to lawmakers. The acting president said the reforms would allow this investment flows to be incorporated into few fields where no investment has ever been made and into fields where there is no infrastructure. Rodriguez said funds from oil would go to workers and public services. Rodriguez also called for diplomacy, with the U.S. marking a shift in the historically tense rhetoric between the two countries, and said should she need to travel to Washington, she would do so walking on her feet, not dragged there. Her announcement came hours after the U.S. seized a sixth Venezuela-linked oil tanker, part of a campaign that began to force Maduro out of power. Canada and China are forging a new strategic partnership that stands to yield historic gains by the leveraging On the strength of each Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney told Chinese leader Xi Jinping in a bilateral meeting in Beijing on Friday. The first Canadian Prime Minister to visit China since 2017, Carney was on a mission to rebuild ties with Canada's second-largest trading partner after the United States, following months of diplomatic efforts to resolve earlier tension. It is important to start this new strategic partnership at a time of division, Carney told Xi, calling for focus on areas that can bring history gains for both, such as agriculture, agri-food, energy, and finance. Lawyers for South Korea's former President Yoon Suk-yeol on Friday denounced a court's decision to sentence him to 5 years in prison, calling the ruling over his failed bid to impose martial law in 2024 politicized. Speaking outside the court immediately afterwards, one of the Yoon's lawyers, Yoo Jung-hwa, said the former president would appeal. "We express a strong regret that the decision was made in a politicized manner," she said. The Seoul Central District Court found Yoon guilty of mobilizing the Presidential Security Service to block authorities from executing an arrest warrant to investigate him for his martial law declaration. In televised proceedings, the 65-year-old former prosecutor was also found guilty of charges that included fabricating official documents and failing to follow the legal process required for the martial law, which has to be discussed at a formal cabinet meeting.
해서 지금 판결을 내린 점에 대해서 강력한 유감을 표하는 바입니다.
24 aid workers involved in refugee rescue in Greece were acquitted of the migrant smuggling charges alleged on Thursday in a case that rights groups have dismissed as a baseless attempt to outlaw aid for refugees heading to Europe. The trial on the island of Lesbos came as EU countries, including Greece, which saw more than 1 million people reaching its shores during Europe's refugee crisis in 2015-16, are tightening rules on migration as right-wing parties gain ground across the bloc. Schoenbinder, a German national, began volunteering for Emergency Response Center International in 2017. The 24 defendants affiliated with the ERCI, a non-profit search and rescue group that operated on Lesbos from 2016 to 18, faced felony charges which included involvement in a criminal group facilitating the illegal entry of migrants and money laundering linked to the group's funding. Before ending, we go through the headlines again. Bangladesh safeguarded Bangladesh's sovereignty, says Rule Kaviristi. Conspiracy underway to seize country's coal and gas. Government advocating yes vote in favor of reform, says Press Secretary. Critics of referendum have limited understanding. At least 6 killed in Uth residential building fire. Fire originated from kitchen, says police. We're updated with the top story so far here on SATV, and to know the latest news, visit www.satv.tv. Stay with SATV.